Hello everyone, my greetings to one and all. This is the 18th and the last session on determination of income and employment. In the previous session, you have understood about deficient demand leading to deflationary gap in the economy, or there is deflation in the economy. The deflationary gap has to be minimized. Deflation has to be reduced. For that, government needs to take certain measures. Because no economy can afford to remain in deflation for a long time. I am Poonam Vohra from Macroeconomics Learning Center, and in this session, you will understand the measures taken by the government in order to reduce or minimize deflation in the economy. So let us begin. Deficient demand results in deflation in the country and it has to be corrected. In order to correct the problem of deficient demand, aggregate demand has to be increased by an amount equal to deflationary gap. Now the purpose is to expand money supply in the economy. For that, government takes various measures relating to repo rate, reserve ratio, margin requirement, credit rationing, lending, and securities. Since the purpose is to expand the money supply, government will decrease the repo rate. It reduces the cost of borrowings from the central bank, and hence commercial banks would also reduce their lending rates. It encourages borrowers to take loans and raises the availability of credit, and demand gets enhanced. Open market operations is buying and selling of government securities. Now in order to expand money supply, the central bank would purchase the securities so that money is released in the system. It raises the reserves of the commercial banks and positively affects the bank's ability to create credit. So far as legal reserve ratios are concerned, there will be decrease in legal reserve ratio, whether it is cash reserve ratio or statutory liquidity ratio. It has been discussed earlier also that cash reserve ratio is the minimum percentage of net demand and time liabilities to be kept by the commercial banks with the central banks. So decrease in cash reserve ratio improves the reserves of the commercial banks. Similarly, statutory liquidity ratio is the minimum percentage of net demand and time liabilities which the commercial banks are required to maintain with themselves. So by decreasing such a ratio, they will be in a position to improve the reserves of the commercial banks. That helps in raising the aggregate demand in the economy. Similarly, there will be decrease in margin requirement. That is, margin is the difference between amount of loan and market value of security offered by the borrower against the loan. If margin fixed by the central bank is 20%, then commercial banks are allowed to give loans up to 80% of the value of security. Decrease in margin requirement means raising the borrowing capacity of the banks and hence increase in money supply. Similarly, under selective credit control, RBI will give directions to the banks to give or not to give credit for certain purposes to particular sectors. During deficient demand, central bank withdraws credit rationing to prevent excessive flow of credit, and this enables to raise the excess demand. Likewise, RBI provides evidence. Also, RBI advises the commercial banks to encourage lending during these times. So the overall impact would be to have an expansion in money supply so that there is a push to aggregate demand in the economy. Assess yourself. A statement is being given here. You need to identify whether the statement is true or false. Give reason also. The statement is, sale of government securities by the central bank in the open market is an appropriate policy to check depression in the economy. Now, please check your answer. It's a false statement. In order to check depression in the economy, the central bank will purchase the securities in order to increase the money supply in the economy. Because sale of securities would mean contraction of money supply, whereas the purpose is to expand the money supply because it is deflation in the country. So the statement is false. In order to reduce deflation in the country, there has to be an increase in aggregate demand, which is possible only when there is an increase in the disposable income of the consumers. So there has to be an increase in money supply, which is possible only when government increases its investment expenditure. Also, government must decrease revenues and borrowings. By following these measures, there will be an increase in money supply and deficient demand can be taken care of. Now, have a look at this statement and identify whether the statement is true or false. Give reason also. The statement is, to correct the deflationary gap, the government should increase taxation. Please check your answer. The statement is false, simply because by increasing the taxation during deflation, money supply would be contracted. The purpose is to expand the money supply, which is possible only by reducing the taxes and not increasing the taxes. So, the government should reduce taxation. Lower taxation would increase disposable income. Accordingly, aggregate demand would increase to correct the deflationary gap. I hope you have understood the measures to be taken by the government when there is deflation in the economy. With this, the session comes to an end, and also the unit on determination of income and employment gets complete. In these 18 sessions, you have understood the classical as well as the Keynesian view on determination of income and employment, the components of aggregate demand, aggregate supply, equilibrium, through aggregate demand, aggregate supply approach, and through savings and investment approach, with the help of tabular as well as a diagrammatic presentation. You have also understood the concept of multiplier and its relation with marginal propensity to consume and save. Then you have also understood here the concept of excess demand and deficient demand, and what should government be doing in order to correct inflation or deflation in the economy. In all these 18 sessions, you have tried to answer certain questions which were quite simple and related to the concept as explained. Obviously, this is not enough. So, answer all the questions as given in the assignments, whether it is foundational based or whether it is competency based. Also, keep reading newspapers. Have a track of what is going on in the economy Is there inflation? What is government doing if there is inflation? What is its impact if there is inflation? Or whether there is deflation in the country. Whatever the condition be, try to find out its reasons and keep a track what measures have been taken by the government to correct the situation. So by watching these videos, by answering all the questions, and by having a track of the economic events that take place, will deepen your understanding and help you to face a challenging questions, whether it is in your examination or beyond. So keep learning and keep practicing. Next session, we shall meet for the next unit. Thank you.